Okay, you guys, we are back with another banging video. In this video, we're going to talk about the Little Mermaid Halle. We haven't done a Halle video in quite a while, but most recently she was on a podcast interview with Michelle Obama, which is the IMO podcast, which is hosted by her, Michelle Obama, and her brother, Craig Robinson. No, I'm gonna be very honest. It is one of the warmest podcast interviews I've seen in a long while. Outside of Chloe's podcast, it's really warm, and this is just another such example. But this one, not only was it warm, it was inspiring, right? It was a inspiring conversation that blended like artistry. She spoke about her personal growth, motherhood, right? Halle spoke about how playing The Little Mermaid has helped her discover her own confidence and voice, both on screen and in real life. And you know that she's going to be asked about motherhood and becoming a mother. And, you know, the discussion, Halle is so well spoken and she is very articulate. And to see her having that discussion with Michelle Obama, it was as though she was talking to her daughter. It didn't give the sense that there were two strangers speaking. It gave a sense that this was a mother and daughter giving you some insights into their own personal life, as it relates to their growth and development. Because while Halle was sharing about her growth, her development, her life, her experience, maturity, evolving, developing, and truly finding herself, Michelle Obama was also supporting that and saying, my daughter, you know, this reminds me of what my daughter has been through. And my daughter has said this to me at some point in time. And you know, she has two daughters. So when she's not making reference to one, if she's not making reference to Malia, she's making reference to Sasha. And it was just such a warm, sacred, comfortable space. And you could tell that even though she was the first lady, she's just wowed by how articulate Halle is and her presence. She really appreciated Halle's presence. So I want to share a snippet of that interview with you guys, and then I'll get back with the rest of my commentary.
Mermaid for me was like a whole different trajectory. Like I was introduced to so many, like a different side of the world that I'd never even, knew would know my name. And so with that, I think it started to feel like, oh my gosh, like this is a lot. I was very grateful for it, but it definitely, that was kind of a shock of how much people suddenly cared about, your name or how much they expressed that they don't care or they don't think you're a good fit. It suddenly became like, whoa, like I didn't think people would care this much. And, that was a moment where I think I had to just ground myself when I was hearing all the conversation about, my casting and things like that, which was very, it was just different for me at the time because I was used to being shielded with my sister, at least. And my sister, she'll tell you herself, she does not play about me. She's the one who's always there to be like, not like she puts things in place for us. And so with that, it was the first time I was kind of on my own and having to use my own voice and shield myself from certain things, but also realize how great of an opportunity this was. But also everything that came with it was it was a shock. So I think that moment for me was definitely the whole mermaid experience.
Okay, guys, so there you have it. Halle talking about, that is just a snippet of what they discussed, but she spoke about her experience getting casted for The Little Mermaid. And she's saying, it was a whole different world to her, one that she wasn't ready for, because while so many people were excited for her, and I believe this is what she's saying, but she said it in such a diplomatic way that, she doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. So she was saying that, The Little Mermaid was like her first official separation from her sister, Chloe. And she thought she was prepared. She was happy. She was excited for the opportunity. The opportunity was a challenge for her, but it opened a lot of doors, and the doors that it opened were the doors of good comment. It was like, vindication for a lot of people. It was recognition for the Black community, but at the same time, it had hatred. There was a lot of hatred towards her. There were a lot of unsavory, unpleasant comments. And she's saying that this is normally where her sister would come in and protect her from the unsavory, unpleasant comments. But this time around, her sister could not protect her because, it was the set of The Little Mermaid, and they had to be calculated about how they navigate through the hate that Halle was receiving, because responding to people, even though you would be defending yourself, it could also jeopardize the production, the cast, and everything. So she's saying that her sister could not step in here to defend her. She was solo on this, and she had to learn to basically keep herself grounded. There was one point where she basically said like, that tail was her balance, and she had to shed it because in this environment, the balance was not there. It was a major challenge for her, but at the end of the day, she came out on top. She even sang on the podcast. She discussed her first solo album and her upcoming film, You, Me, and Tuscany, emphasizing how she's stepping into her own lane beyond Chloe x Halle duo. The shedding of the tail was like a metaphor, shedding the tail and finding the footing on her own 2 foot to describe her journey to independence away from her sister and being able to grow. But she still loves her sister. It was hard. It was a hard transition for her. She still loves her sister. And, it was a huge adjustment for her to basically be on her own without the protection of her sister. And she had to learn that really quick and adjust really fast. It was a very, very beautiful podcast. It really showed you another side of Halle. Like, that Halle is beautiful, but she's also telling you that she can be sharp, she can be tough, and she can be critical, but it's not gonna just come at you out of nowhere. She's literally saying that when people come for her, she's literally saying she speaks bitch too, but it's not just gonna come out of nowhere. You have to be like pressuring her and consistently being mean and rude to her, and then she'll pop off. And many people are like that. They are grounded. You have to be like excessive, forceful for them to truly respond to you or retaliate against you. And she has basically described herself to be that person. And she's saying that when she loves really hard. And she's a very loving person, which I believe we can see it's true. But that's all I have to talk about as it relates to her podcast interview with Michelle Obama and her brother. I think it was one of the most refreshing ones that we've seen in quite a long while. And I think it's an interesting watch. I think it's kind of eye-opening. For me, the part that was eye-opening was when there were many other little moments, but the part that is standing out for me consistently is her talking about, the journey of The Little Mermaid and her not having the protection of her sister, and she had to come to terms with that, and she had to find her own footing. Even though she was strong, she was still dependent on her sister's strength, but she had to become independent, even though she was independent. That is what stands out for me. Let me know if there's anything about this interview that stands out for you guys. And I love the fact that Halle is consistently an exemplary human being. A lot of people they've tried to taint her. And this is why I'll always say to people, be your own walking resume, because the thing is that evil lives among us, and not everything that has flesh and blood are human. Some human beings are really disgusting and they're really horrible, and they'll do anything to taint your image and reputation. But when you are your own walking resume, they can always try to call you a liar. They can always try to taint your image and your reputation, but you and your character that you consistently have on display, the things that you do when people are looking and when no one is looking, they do matter, and that is what is going to speak for you and vindicate you at the end of the day. So always learn to be your own walking resume. Perfection doesn't exist, and we're all going to get out of character at times, but for the most part, be a decent human being. It's not easy. It's not easy. Trust and believe it is not easy, but you can definitely do it. And with daily efforts, you become better at it. And that's my word to you guys. I hope you guys have an amazing day. And remember that no matter what you're going through, learn to give yourselves momentarily breaks. Give yourself that momentarily break that you need. Find something to laugh about. Find something to be happy about. Find something to be grateful about. And try to trick yourself into believing that everything is okay. Be delusional. It works. Be delusional. Tell yourself that you already have everything that you want. Feel it. Breathe it. Smell it. Act like it. And keep working towards it, and trust and believe it will happen. I'm here as a living testimony to that. And my family, as I've always said, my family, they are a living testimony to that. So you guys know I always love to preach to you ever so often, but that's just who I am. I love to leave people with love and good vibration. If you don't piss me off, okay? But that's it. Stay safe, stay blessed. Peace